So I sense there is a story behind this beautiful bio. What was your call to adventure? How did you decide to spread your wings and fly and start doing what you're doing?
It's been a long journey, I suppose, really. I spent 18 years working in HR, so I was a human resources director and was absolutely adamant that's what I was going to do. That's where I'd spend my life and do everything that I wanted
Such a
to.
big job.
It was a big job. Nobody's beat me to my title yet, so I'll keep that one. But I was recruited as the youngest HR director in the UK.
Wow.
And I'd pushed and pushed and pushed, had my sons actually when I was 20 unexpectedly. I've got twin sons.
Wow.
And pushed and pushed and pushed to get my career to where I wanted to go, really, so I could say that everything we had as a family, I'd been providing for and doing everything.
So you did all the right things, played by
I
the
did,
book.
yes, did everything, kind of, went fully into kind of superwoman syndrome with trying to do everything that I possibly could do. And then a few months after, well, probably about 6 months after getting the HR director position, started to get quite ill. And ended up in hospital. Was fine, sorted myself out, but it took me kind of 6 months to get a diagnosis. And even whilst I was in hospital waiting for my operations, I was still working on my laptop until my organisation shut off my access just so I couldn't work.
Oh my goodness!
And
so after anesthesia or whatever was going on, you were just
was emailing from my hospital bed. Yeah.
Even if it's the last thing I do on earth, you must send that last email.
I have to do it. And I think actually it was after the operation, I suppose, when I was in recovery, and just thought I'm not going to do anything. But I think I got to a point of just thinking, I suppose when I was in recovery and not doing anything for work, when I got back to work, the world hadn't stopped, the team was still working, the business was still going, and I suppose this feeling of kind of being indispensable, wasn't there, and all the pushing and struggling really that I'd been doing for years to get to the position that I wanted to go. I just thought, actually, what's the point? Because actually the important stuff was my health, my sons, my friendships, all of those things. Wow. And I went on a workshop actually that my coach was running. And there were about 250 women in the room. And on the train on the way back from London to Peterborough, where I live, I just thought, the work that I'm doing actually is just so against my values.
Really?
It's absolutely untrue. We were going through, I think, with working in HR, you're really devalued by a lot of the business because it's just HR and you're just there to hire and fire. We were going through lots and lots of changes. So even the strategies that I was writing to try and improve the service, the board were too busy, so the papers weren't being approved, so you'd spend forever writing these papers and not having them go anywhere.
Oh, yes.
The meetings that you were in were just getting absolutely nowhere. I just thought there's got to be more to this.
I have a sense, Kelly, that you entered into this whole HR world with a very different idea of what it was going to be, because your heart was in the service, and then the reality check was that service part was devalued, and it was kind of mechanical and not at all what you had envisioned.
Absolutely. So I think I suppose I fell into HR actually, but I loved it when I was doing it. But I think for me, what I wanted to stop at the time was this kind of Monday to Friday dying syndrome.
Monday to Friday dying syndrome. I've never heard this before, so aptly put.
We spend Sunday evenings worrying about going back to work on Monday. Monday, it's like, worst day of the week because it's Monday, we've got to go back to work. Tuesday, we just kind of start to get our rhythm back and get back into it. Wednesday's midweek slump, so, what's the point? Thursday, we've got so much to do because it's Friday, and then Friday, it's Friday. So we really only tend to enjoy kind of Friday evenings and Saturdays. And I thought, I want to really be able to do that and change something about it. Maybe it was just the organisations that I was working with, but just the more senior I got, I was convinced I'd be able to do much more influencing and change the way, change the culture, do something to change the values, change the way that people were engaging with their employees. And it just wasn't happening.
Yes.
So I had this kind of realisation and started my first business, actually, my consultancy, which is still going. I've got an amazing group of people called Chrysalis Consulting. Actually, we were talking about transformation earlier, but that's Chrysalis Consulting. which is, we started it with much more of a focus around kind of developing leaders, so the coaching and the leadership development, which we still do in part. Mm-hmm. But again, over the last few years, I suppose we were hitting blips. So a lot of the companies that wanted to work with us then didn't want to work for us because they were making huge cutbacks. They were looking for spending cuts and budget cuts and all sorts of other different bits and pieces. And from that perspective, the first thing to go was the leadership and staff development.
Yes.
So with the team,
the most important stuff is
exactly,
the first to go,
but it's always the first to go.
Who needs personal development? Well,
I know, exactly. Yeah. And then we wonder why we get in such a mess with businesses anyway, and then we need to, to kind of make so many cutbacks that we do. So with the team that I brought in, we started to put a lot of our work online. And we also then looked much more at process improvement. So I actually recruited a managing director into the business to deal with the day-to-day running of that. He's a very project management background. And for me, I just wanted to do the work. I didn't necessarily want to run the business, but I wanted to be out there making a difference and being able to change. And then unfortunately, last year, was diagnosed with epilepsy and had to stop driving. So I stopped driving and I just felt I'd lost my complete sense of, I suppose, kind of independence. Didn't know what to do, where to go, or any of those sorts of things, but thought there's got to be another way of doing it. And I had all of these workshops and material and content, I suppose, that I'd kept locked in a drawer for years because they didn't fit into the ethos of, or the way in which Chrysalis Consulting was working.
Because you were driving so fast, right? You kept moving, and then literally you were not able to drive. Your life said, stop.
And it just stopped. It was. Let's stop.
Look deeper into the drawer.
Exactly.
There is something good in there.
So, so I went in the drawer, pulled out all of this material, all of this book. So I've got a book that's with a publisher at the moment. I've got workshops, I've got material, I've got e-learning programs. I've got all of this stuff. But I think I suppose when I was looking more deeply at myself and kind of finding my own wings, I started to go much more down a hill, I suppose, looking at just energy. So I'd been concentrating on a while around mindset coaching specifically, and how our mindset can obviously impact everything else. But I just felt internally, maybe intuitively, it just felt there was something much more deep, actually, as opposed to mindset. And started to look a lot around the energy, actually did, additional courses in hypnotherapy. I did additional courses in Reiki. I looked at lots more energy healing. I did lots and lots of other kind of add-on courses, I suppose, and was just fascinated by this combination.
You were on your own journey. You felt there was more to the whole picture.
Absolutely. And I think with the changes really that I've been able to make for myself over the last 12 months, personally, professionally, business focus, all of those things, and then being able to see the difference that I can make to other people, it's just, I'm flying and able to help other people too as well, really. So,
Kelly, what a beautiful story. I'm honored that you shared it with us. And for that woman listening right now who may be going through a hard time, I feel this is such a huge validation. She may be going through the hard time that you were going through when you fell ill and you felt like your world fell apart. How did you feel in that moment, right? Before you knew that it was going to work out for the better at the end. How did you feel when you just ended up in a hospital and you were just driving so fast, you were so determined, you achieved this very high career level, right? And then suddenly you lose it all, basically. Yeah. You're told, you're actually cut off from your company communications. You're like, right? You just had to suddenly shift into a whole different mode of being.
Yeah,
How did you feel?
Well, I think, I suppose I felt initially, I think for me, it was being that determination. I mean, even some of the women that I was doing some work with at the time that were working in other businesses, but we were partners with them, with the company I was working with, will still say to me now, I cannot believe, kind of even when you were in so much pain and you couldn't walk down the street, that you still continued to do it and you still kept going and you still kept driving. So I think initially for me, and maybe because I was in that, in that pace and being in it so much, there was just that level of determination. I'm not a quitter. I don't like to let things get the best of me. So I just kept going and going and going and going and going. I think if I could talk to any women that are out there doing that now, or even go back, kind of 3 years and talk to myself, I would just say stop and take time out and rest.
Oh gosh,
and I think that's been my
goosebumps.
biggest learn over, well, yeah, I think even the biggest learn for me over the past 6 months, really.